Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where the old bone Steve brings a subject to discuss, and I, the young blood Mark, give a reply in what I feel. So, it's over to the old bones. Okay, Steve.
All right, thank you very much. Hi, people. This coming out of the New York Post this week. The US military has told their Congress, that recruitment is down 25% of the year from last year. They cite the shrinking pool of eligible candidates. Apparently, 7 to 10 people wanting to enlist in the armed forces in the US are either too fat, use drugs, or have mental illnesses. Now, that to me says more about the American society than it does than the armed services. You know, if 70% of the people who want to go into the army can't get in because they're either drugged up, deranged, or obese, then that's a huge question to ask about the society in general in the US. If that's a reflection of the society in the US, or if it's just mere chance that all these people have these these traits that won't permit them to enter into the army. But anyway, what might give us a clue to this is that those that made it into the army, apparently, an organization called the American Security Project, they did some research on the armed forces, and they reported that 68% of active duty service people were overweight, either overweight or obese. 68% of those that are in the army at the moment are either overweight or obese. So, I think the US needs to have a good look at their own armed forces before they start wanting to tackle wars in other countries with the soldiers to see if they're up for it. We know that with the new woke strategy in the US, that woke people, transgender people, are exempt from doing physical work, but that isn't everybody, and we know that that the US has sent 12,000 soldiers, Marines, on 4 ships to go to the problem in Gaza. They wanted to send 16,000, but you can only get so many chubby people onto a boat, and so there's only 12.
Okay.
So there you have it. Even the Air Force, which is ironic, the Air Force has relaxed the weight, the body fat obligation, and now you can get into the Air Force if your body fat is 25% of your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do they get the airplanes off the ground? That's what I want to know. Put fewer bombs. You put fewer bombs on the airplanes to lighten the load. It used to be 20%, but they raised it up to 25%, which is a huge difference. It's 20% different, or 25% different in the case.
Right.
20% to 25%.
Yeah.
It's a quarter. But there you go. Your thoughts on that then?
Well, as I said, it's just British military. I was going to go into the British military when I was early 20s at one point, as I said before on a previous podcast. And it was made quite clear to me then that although they were raising the age limit because they needed bodies in the door, that didn't mean that the requirement was necessarily going to drop to get in. Yeah, now it is interesting what you say. I mean, there is a reason why there is a criteria to be able to get in, be it the use of drug use or even fitness levels. Because when you're in a war zone, I mean, that doesn't take into account anything. You've got to be able to move quickly. Okay, I mean, yeah, it's all okay. Rambo is what a lot of people think, but it is a little bit like that. You have to be tough. You have to be fit. You have to be ready to react on something. As was said to me by the recruiting sergeant, you're going to be cold and hungry in a hole somewhere, with only you and your rifle for company, and be able to react on a moment's notice. Do you think you can do that? They'll find out in basic training, because you do 6 weeks basic training, which is when they weed out the problems. You do give them a drugs test. As I said, I worked in an industry where you were always, at any moment, could be drug tested. You could be out on site or in an office. They come around and give a 10% sample test of everyone. Yeah, I always passed. There's no reason why I shouldn't have passed. I'm not saying I got lucky. Yeah, it's not like athletes. You hope they don't get part. Yeah, sometimes. But so that's one side. Being fit. I mean, most jobs, I've ever done, there was a minimum fitness level, because you've got to think I had to be able to get myself away from moving trains and things like this. You have to have a reasonable fitness level to do that. Climb over rails doing it, not literally climb over, step over, I should say. It is so obviously, but being in the army is somewhere where you've got to want to be. I cannot believe that people in the military are not keeping themselves up to the required fitness, because if you're not doing it, you have a drill sergeant and just about anyone else, you go and report, I'd imagine, and you're made to be fit again. So I don't know where these statistics have come from.
But even the special forces in the US, the Green Berets, they're recruiting. They've missed the quotas of recruiting over the last 5 years. For 5 years.
Well,
so it's not a phenomenon of this year.
No,
where they could think, well, the US are going to get into a war, therefore I'm not going to. And it isn't for the fault of people applying.
Yeah,
it's them being rejected because they're so huge.
Well, that's it.
Drugged out or in a mental state. I mean, we got the guy. What society is going to show us, like from last night to today.
Yeah,
the guy in Maine who went on a shooting spree.
Yeah,
he's ex-forces.
Yeah,
he's got mental problems, but he's a gun instructor, for goodness sake.
Well, I mean, as somebody once said to me, there's a fine line between this side. This guy, was associated with the Irish police. He wasn't. He knew somebody there. And this guy actually said to him one day, "Was a fine line between that side of the line and that side of the line. When you go over it, you ain't coming back."
Right.
We can. I mean, that's another issue. Mental illness. There was a guy who had the ability to use a weapon. Now we're going to have to wait. Of course, people in the US are going to start crying up, ban guns and everything else, Second Amendment. We have to wait until everything comes out on that. Evidently, okay, the guy was competent around weapons. It's surprising that, given how many guns there are in the US, why he wasn't stopped by an open carry civilian at some point. But again, it depends on the laws in the state. I don't know what the laws of Maine are. I know other states where concealed carry is legal.
If you look at Joe Biden's son, Joe Biden's son, who got a gun, got his hands on a gun because he just on the back of the form, the application form, he didn't put the cross on "Are you a drug user?"
Yeah, well,
He declared that he wasn't when really he was. I mean, if it's that easy to get a gun, but I'm not. We're not on about. We're
No.
not on about, or rather, I'm not on about how easy it is to get a gun in the US.
Well, we're talking about the military recruitment. Yes,
we're talking about the state of the people
Yeah.
in general in the US. There are so many people wanting to recruit,
Yeah.
but are being rejected because of these three things.
Yeah.
Is it that all people in the US are freaking out? 70% of them.
Well, well, look, I mean, I've been to the US and the diet. Okay, I went there in '94. I was at the US in 1994, and yeah, you go burgers, bars, and everything. And then I was thinking at the time, this is going to have an effect. You go and get a full stack in the morning. No, I'm not the healthiest person around. I keep myself reasonably in shape, even at my middle age. I'm still younger than you, old bones, but yeah, it is a yeah. I mean, the type of society it's a, if you like, a relaxed, happy society. It's people that have everything. I mean, you look at some of the people protesting on the street about how bad the US is. Big people, yeah. So you got to.
But don't forget, we more recently, and I don't know if it's because of the internet, but you've got the discussions on aeroplanes, the fights in McDonald's, the fights at Burger King, the fights the attacking people in the street for no apparent reason. And all of that is happening, and it's almost like the United States is, they need to put a border wall on the United States to keep the Americans in.
I was going to say, yeah, we could be heading into an Escape from New York scenario.
It'll be the biggest asylum, biggest mental asylum in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure I'm going to get some reactions for saying that.
Well, no, I was just thinking of there's a film, one of my favorite all-time films, Escape from New York, where the New York becomes a penitentiary prison, like to say, the fence around it and everything else. Snake Plissken goes in.
We're going to have these mental cases in the US. They're all going to be fat and high on ecstasy.
Well, that's the
fentanyl.
Point that's the point I'm making. That the US is a very have society, has been for many years. It's been building probably since the 50s.
Take it away from them.
Yeah,
start to make their life difficult.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I come from a generation that effectively had life quite easy. The Gen X, we joke about it. We were the feral latchkey kids, as it were, in the US and the UK. Our both parents worked, but we had what we needed, and yeah, we just wanted to be happy. Not lesson like this, and yeah, it's like we grew up on the military films, being fit. The gym started to come into place and all that. If you were fat at school, you were told you were fat. At school, the kids were merciless. The 80s, and on TV, the fat jokes that you would get on Married
Don't I know it?
Yeah, I never really had that. I was always tall, so I was called other things. Yeah. I
wasn't fat, but I was called other things as well.
Yeah. I mean, we used to take it a little bit.
We had to.
Yeah, no choice, because if the minute you responded, it got even worse. I mean, yeah, that was tough and all that. But maybe, if somebody being called fat, they suddenly woke up one morning, I bet you'd lose some weight. Yeah, you did. Yeah, I won't say it didn't get you, it did. But yeah, you got on with life, and that was it. Yeah. Now today, people say, well, I comfort eat. You what? Yeah, we all do that. We're all at home, the fridge full of stuff. Yeah, but there's discipline. It is a it is a society there now that these people probably generally want to go in there forever. They're probably all sitting at home, been on their couches since 14 years old, playing video games about war and thinking, I want to do this, not thinking I should be running around Central Park or whatever, making sure I'm actually on the level to get in there. Maybe smoking the dope when you're doing it, and shooting up, I don't know, when you're doing it as well, might not be a good idea either. Yeah.